Hello and welcome to Super Awesome Greek Gods. My name is Helen and I'll show you around. Follow me. Today we'll be discussing ancient Greek religion and everyday life. This is one of my favourite topics. Once you've finished the video, please read the instructions below and complete the activity. Once you've completed the activity, tell your teacher. I hope you enjoyed this video. In most of ancient Greece, a house was built around an open-air courtyard. Houses were built of stone, wood, and clay bricks. They were sturdy and comfortable. Larger homes might have several bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathing room, a woman's sitting room, a men's dining area, and 1 or 2 rooms for storage. The central courtyard was a wonderfully private place, because women were only allowed to leave their homes for short periods of time, and only if they had their husband's permission. They could always enjoy sitting outside in the privacy of their courtyard. They probably sat in the shade because a pale complexion was a sign of beauty to the ancient Greeks, but at least they got fresh air. Mothers and daughters would sit in their courtyard and sew or cook or gossip. Meals were often eaten in the courtyard. The family would gather there in the evening and share what happened to them that day and tell stories and fables. The courtyard was the centre of family life. In ancient Sparta, home life was very different. The men lived in the barracks. Women lived in homes. Husbands visited, but they did not live at home. When the boys were old enough, they joined their fathers in the barracks. Women had far more freedom in ancient Sparta, probably because their husbands were off fighting somewhere. It was up to the women and injured or very old men to keep the community going while the men were gone. The Greek diet was very healthy. They grew wheat and made breads and cereals and noodles. They grew olives and figs and grapes. They grew all kinds of vegetables. They kept goats for milk and cheese, and they fished in their many waterways and streams. City-states on the coastline used boats and nets and traps to catch all kinds of seafood, and traded some of the catch for foods produced by the inland city-states. Some homes even kept chickens. The Greeks made homemade wine. They made jams and jellies and kept beehives for honey. They also made delicious sweet desserts. Meals were prepared in the courtyards, the open-air centre of each home. The Greeks were very clean people. They did this to honour Hestia, the goddess of hearth and home. In the larger Greek city-states, you could buy meat in cook shops. It was expensive but available. You could also find other foods to buy in the marketplace, like fancy baked goods and all kinds of fish and vegetables. But all city-states had a marketplace where foods were traded and bartered or purchased. Greek clothing was sold in the agora, otherwise known as the marketplace. You could buy clothes, but they were expensive, so most families made most or all of their clothes. Their clothes were simple. They made clothes out of wool for winter wear and used linen as their summer fabric. They dyed tunics and cloaks in bright colours. They bleached some material to a bright white. Clothes were decorated with geometric designs and could be decorated to represent their city-state. Some were left plain. Greek people usually wore sandals, as shown here. Some Greeks wore a hat that they invented for travelling. It had a chin strap so it could hang down their back unless they needed it for protection from sunshine or rain. Both men and women used perfume made by boiling flowers and herbs. Religion played a very essential part in everyday Greek life. Sacred sites were located all over the place. Sites held a simple altar at which the ancient Greeks could pray. Some sacred sites became so popular for whatever reason that a temple was built on the site. The Greeks also prayed at home in their courtyards. It was not unusual to pray at home, stop at a sacred site, and visit a temple all in the same day. Different houses dedicated their altars to different gods. The Greeks held festivals to honour their gods. First there was a festival, then a parade to a temple, then a sacrifice. The animal of the same sex as the god being worshipped was sacrificed, and then they had a feast. They held sporting events like the ancient Greek Olympics to honour their gods. In ancient Greece, honouring the gods was part of everyday life and part of everything they did. The Greeks did not believe their gods lived in the temples or at the sacred sites, but they did believe that the gods visited these places, and had magical powers that could hear their prayers. The gods were believed to live above the mountains in a place called Olympus. The Greeks also believed they could ask for help and advice through an oracle. An oracle was a wise woman with the ability to see the future. Here you can see the Oracle of Delphi. You may be wondering what school was like in ancient Greece. Only rich Greek boys went to school, and the school was called the gymnasium. The school started for them at 7 years old, and they stayed until they were 15. At 18 years old, the boy became a citizen of his state, or polis. He might spend a year in the army, and then, if his parents were very rich, he might go to the sports academy. Girls, however, did not go to school at all. They stayed at home with their mothers and were taught to cook and weave. Many girls also learnt to read and write, if they could afford it, and they would often be taught music and dancing.